A tiger paces. 6 steps to the wall, turn, 6 steps back. It has done this for hours, and it will do it all again tomorrow. A parrot sits in its cage and methodically pulls out its own feathers, one by one, until bare pink skin shows through. Something is deeply wrong with these animals, but it is not a sickness you could ever find on a scan. They are bored, profoundly, painfully bored, and boredom does strange and unsettling things to a mind with nothing to do. For a long time, scientists refused to even use that word about animals. Boredom was a human feeling, and it was off limits. But the evidence slowly piled up, and now it is very hard to ignore. Animals, it turns out, really can get bored, and what a bored animal does to cope can be genuinely disturbing to watch. So what is actually happening inside a bored animal's head? And how could anyone ever prove it? Let us find out. First, what is boredom really? It is not simply having nothing to do. It is the distress of a mind built for a rich, complex world, trapped in one that offers it almost nothing. In the wild, an animal's day is completely full. Hunting, foraging, exploring, dodging danger, solving little problems without a break. Its brain evolved for exactly that endless flood of challenge and change. Now take that same brain and drop it into a bare cage. The same 4 walls, the same food, day after identical day. The mind is still hungry for input, but there is simply nothing there to feed it. That gap between a mind that craves stimulation and a world that gives none is boredom. And a starving mind, just like a starving body, slowly begins to do desperate things. The most visible sign even has a name. Scientists call it stereotypy. Repetitive, pointless actions done over and over and over. The pacing big cat, treading the exact same line until it wears a bald track into the ground. The bear that sways its head from side to side for hours. The elephant that rocks endlessly in one spot. The parrot that plucks itself bald. The horse that bites its stall door and gulps at the air again and again. The lonely dog that licks one spot on its leg for hours until the fur is gone and the skin underneath is raw. In zoos, this whole grim pattern even earned its own nickname among keepers. These are not cute little quirks. They are the marks of a brain grinding against a world with nothing in it. The behaviours can get so deeply fixed that they carry on even after the animal is finally moved somewhere better. But here is the hard part. A pacing tiger looks bored to us. How could a scientist ever prove that it truly feels bored? You cannot just ask an animal if it is bored. So researchers came up with a clever, almost sneaky test. The star of the study was the mink, a small, curious, intensely active predator, often kept on farms in bare wire cages. The idea was simple. A truly bored animal should be desperate for almost any scrap of stimulation. Just like a bored person will end up watching anything at all. So they kept some mink in plain, empty cages, and others in cages full of toys, tunnels, and things to do. Then they offered every mink a series of objects, one at a time, and watched how eagerly each one reacted. Some objects were fun, like a moving toy. Some were frightening, like the smell of a predator. Some were just plain dull. The enriched, well-stimulated mink were picky. They mostly ignored the boring things and avoided the scary ones. But the bored mink from the empty cages pounced on almost everything. Even the scary smells, even the dull blocks. Anything was better than nothing. They also ate more treats and lay around awake but listless, exactly like the low, flat mood of a bored person. It was about as close to proof as we may ever get. If your own brain is quietly enjoying being fed something new right now, prove you are not a bored mink and subscribe. Curio posts one of these every single day. Okay, back to it. Now, you might think this is only about exotic animals locked in cages. It is not. It is very likely happening in your own home. A dog left home alone all day, with no walk and no game, is a hunting animal with absolutely nothing to hunt. So it chews the sofa, digs up the garden, barks at nothing for an hour, not out of spite, but from a mind with no outlet. A horse kept alone in a bare stall starts crib biting. A bored rabbit overgrooms. A parrot screams for hours. And the pattern is clear. The smarter and more active the animal, the faster it gets bored and the more it needs. A goldfish in a plain bowl and a border collie in an empty flat are simply not the same puzzle. The animals we find cleverest and most charming are exactly the ones most likely to suffer when we understimulate them. Which is a slightly uncomfortable thought for anyone who keeps a pet in a small space and then heads out for the day. So what actually helps? The answer is the very same thing that helped the mink. Enrichment. Enrichment just means giving an animal things to do that let it behave like itself. Hide its food so it has to be foraged for. Add puzzles, new scents, new textures, and things that change. Give it choices and some control over its own small world. Somewhere to hide, something to climb, a problem to solve. In study after study, enrichment quietly reduces the pacing, the plucking, and the endless repeated loops. And that is the quiet proof that the boredom was real all along. Fill the emptiness and the disturbing behaviour fades. Stimulation, it turns out, is not a luxury for an animal. It is a real need, sitting right alongside food and water. A good enclosure is not just a big enough space, it is an interesting enough one. Step back, and boredom starts to look like something strange and almost profound. Because only a certain kind of mind can be bored in the first place. A very simple creature running purely on instinct may never feel the emptiness of an idle hour. But a mind complex enough to want, to plan, and to expect more from the world can suffer when the world gives it too little. Boredom may be the shadow side of intelligence, the price a rich mind quietly pays for being rich. When an animal is bored, it is actually telling us something, that there is a mind in there, awake and wanting, and not being met. It is a signal we managed to ignore for a very long time, because we did not want to believe it was really there. Now that we can finally see it, it changes how we should think about every creature we choose to keep. So, do animals get bored? The honest answer is that we can never feel exactly what they feel. But a pacing tiger, a self-plucking parrot, and a mink that will greet even a scary smell just to break the monotony, all point the same way. The behaviour is real, it is measurable, and it fades the moment we give these minds something to do. So the next time you see an animal pacing at a zoo, or your own dog staring blankly at a wall, look a little closer. That is not an empty animal. It is a mind running hard, with absolutely nowhere to go. It is asking for the one thing a bare cage can never provide on its own. Something to think about. Give it that, and the pacing stops. Which tells you it was never really about the size of the space. It was about the mind inside it. The same restless, curious kind of mind you are using right this second. Because a mind that can be bored is a mind that is truly awake. Stay curious.